Well, welcome back to Steve Rob Reviews. Today we're going to talk about thread lockers. Liquid thread lockers, there's gel thread lockers, there's tape thread lockers. There's a whole host of different thread lockers out in the market. This is the only thread locker that I use every time I'm working on an automobile, and it's Loctite 243. I'll explain why that's the only one that I use for a medium strength application. Okay. This is just a generic brand, low strength, you know, like this is only for a separate reason. And it's, you know what, it hardly holds it on there, but that's in some situations what you need. And the third one is this one right here, and that's a high strength. Now I believe both these companies, Loctite and Permatex, are all one company, to tell you the truth. Last time I checked, I believe they were. I'm not too sure now. But yeah, the high strength. And this high strength, I only use if it's completely bone dry clean. It can't be oily, it can't be greasy, can't have anything on it. It's got to be clean. And that's what I'm going to talk about here first. I got a little bit of a display here behind me. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But when I was working at General Motors way back in the 70s, there was none of this stuff. So I'm going to show you what we used back then, and we've progressed on to today. But thread lockers are not just thread lockers like a lot of people think. I had to take a course when I was in quality control when the thread lockers first showed up, and I'm going to say it was around the 80s, the late 80s, that we seen thread locking come in on the assembly lines. And yeah, it's not just for using to have some kind of a mechanical fastening, you know, so that the fastener doesn't loosen up. It's also there for a corrosion inhibitor. It's to prevent moisture and intrusion into the threads as well on your fastener. So that's one thing that maybe a lot of people don't know. And the 243, that's only good for like 1/4 inch to 3/4 of an inch. Size fastener. And surprisingly, a lot of people think that the liquid or paste or tape fasteners, you know, called Loctite, everybody uses a generic name of Loctite, but they're you know, thread lockers. The 243 can take up to 72 hours depending on the fitment and depending on the temperature. There's a lot of variables involved. So a lot of times you just can't put something on and expect an hour later that it's going to be fine, because no, it's not going to be fine. You know, there's a lot of variables involved. So this one here, the ones that I'm using, are primerless. Now there is some fasteners out there that, yeah, you have to put a primer on first, and then you put your Loctite or thread locker, as they call it, you know, on there. But I'm going to show you here on my little bit of a display here on the progression of how it's gone over the years and why I like using the thread locker and the 243, and the reason why you should use the 243. And I've seen too many, I would say, even videos on YouTube when I've seen guys just using the regular, you know, thread locker that's not like a 243, and you know what, they might as well just be putting Vaseline on there, because it's not going to make a difference, and I'm going to explain why. Well, let's just start off for a lot of you that have never used a liquid thread locker like this Loctite 243 before. It's just used to go on the threads here, and you put some on, or you put it on your nut, and in the absence of air over time, it's more or less just plastic, to tell you the truth, that fills in the voids. And they come in different strengths, low, medium, high. They got high heat. They have all kinds of different ways of attaching a fastener and using everything else except one of these. Now you can see this one here on the back of the nut itself. It uses a clamping force from these little ridges. This one here is a nylon lock, and it uses this little nylon piece here, which is plastic, to lock on. And then you got this style you've always seen, and this is a combination of a nut that has one of these attached to it. And this is an outside star washer, and they come with an inside star washer. So in the automotive industry, yeah, this was the first one that came out, was like this. Show you a look there, and you could see that it's on the fastener already. Of course, you can't have an assembly line running and have people with bottles going around squirting it on here. So this was the first style that came out, and that's what you're going to see today in most of the automotive world today, is this side applied here. And of course, it is not just there as a clamping force to prevent the fastener from loosening up. It's also a corrosion inhibitor. And so why the Threadlocker 243? Well, I'll tell you something. I've done my own experiments over the years, and this is what I was told when I took the course. You can't use anything except the 243, and of course it comes in a high strength as well, and I believe a high heat. But if you're using a thread locker and the surface is not completely clean of oil and grease, and you know, I've seen so many times people spraying their parts down with WD-40 and all kinds of things, and then when they're finished they throw some thread locker on and they think it's just fine and dandy. Well, this one here is the only one that's made in this particular brand. They all have different brands. Permatex makes their own as well. They have you know, the same thread locker that is compatible with this Loctite here. And you guys just try it sometimes yourself. I have no affiliation with any of these products, but I have used just a regular medium strength thread locker and then use the 243, tighten a bolt on there, one that's greasy, one that's not, and try the two different types, and you'll see that if you don't use the 243 that has the I guess you would just say that it's designed to work with having some foreign materials like oily surface and a little bit of grease and that kind of stuff, it'll work where the other ones don't. And I've tried the two fasteners side by side, and the one that was greasy that didn't have the proper thread locker on it, well, you can loosen it up real easy. And that's what I see a lot of times. Well, I hope you liked that little bit of what I consider the knowledge that I picked up over the years on thread lockers. I hope you enjoyed that. And it is true about if you do, you know, work on automobiles and you're just putting the regular thread locker on there and it's not oil tolerant, you have to actually really use an oil tolerant thread locker, because how many times do you actually fix something, you put the thread locker on there and within maybe an hour it's out the door and it's gone? Well, guess what? It doesn't cure. And that's what I've seen a lot on YouTube is you know, some people are just, maybe they just don't know and they're just using like any thread locker going, and really oily, greasy parts. I mean, you can't get ridiculous. The 243 is not going to work if you got globs of oil and everything all over it either. But a lot of times people are putting, you know, it on a fastener and then putting it inside a really, you know, like a contaminated fastener on the inside, like a weld nut on the inside or something like that, and expecting it to hold. And it doesn't do anything. So it'd be good if you guys wanted to just try two fasteners yourself, you know, and check it out for yourself and see. But that's what I was taught over the years, and yeah, I like using thread locker as much as I can. I find it's I would say it's actually a lot less expensive than, you know, buying other hardware fasteners. All of these have their uses. They're still being used today, and but you won't find too many of these fasteners on automobiles. You're not going to find any of these. You go around and you won't find, I don't think you'll find an automobile with one of these on it, like built today. So I mean, they've switched over to a lot better fasteners. So a lot of the old mechanical type fasteners that were being used back then in the 70s, when I first started working in the automotive industry, well, they don't no longer exist anymore. They have a lot better alternatives, and the liquid thread locker is very cost competitive with any other fastener out there. And of course, going down the assembly line, it's already pre-applied and dried right on the fastener itself most of the time. So thanks for joining me here today. If you haven't seen this channel before, you're welcome to subscribe. You guys take care now. Cheers.